Hey everyone, my name is Daniel and welcome back to another video. I hope you're having a great day out there. As always, over the past roughly 6, 7, maybe even 8 months, it seems that Voyager digital stock has continued to chug lower pretty much on a regular basis. And in this video, I want to focus in on 4 different potential scenarios as to where Voyager digital stock may bottom in the near future, go through the probabilities of those, my thinking behind that, some percentages, and much, much more. So if you end up enjoying this video and potentially finding some value in it, please consider subscribing. And without further ado here, let's get into it here. So when we look at Voyager digital stock, again, as I mentioned previously, Voyager alongside, and sorry, Yahoo Finance here, I keep using this, but it never gives the actual chart justice. When you look at Voyager digital stock year today, although it did experience a run-up from roughly January to the end of March, since the beginning of April, Voyager has continued to go down on a regular basis. And when we look at the potential reasoning behind this, it isn't really something due to the fundamentals at Voyager, which have continued to improve on a regular basis, whether that be revenues, profits, total funded accounts, etc. That continues to improve, and I should mention for anyone new, Voyager is a cryptocurrency brokerage. They offer over 60 digital assets, allow you to earn interest through their lending program on over 30 of those, and they're expanding to be much more than just a crypto brokerage, more of a lifestyle financial app in the future. But anyways, we've seen a downtrend, and we did see kind of like a bottom back mid-July when cryptocurrencies experienced a significant pullback overall to roughly the $10 level. So although we have rebounded at least a little bit since then, potentially bottoming out, there is still potential for us to go lower. And in this video, I want to kind of take us through those scenarios, both potential negative scenarios, but also a few positive ones. So let's get into it here. So first case scenario, and we're going to start from the worst and go to the best, $0. What are the chances that Voyager digital stock goes to $0? This is a number that some people have been, throwing out potential bankruptcy for Voyager. What is going to have to happen for Voyager to essentially go bankrupt? Well, I'm going to need to see one thing, purely one thing, for Voyager to go bankrupt. The business is too profitable at this point to go bankrupt. Their balance sheet is too good, and they have too good of a pathway moving forward in the future to really see bankruptcy as the major risk, right? When you have a potential risk of bankruptcy, one of the biggest things that a lot of people look at is potentially too much debt or an unsustainable business model. Voyager is quite the opposite of that. What I'm going to need to see for Voyager to potentially go bankrupt is a flat-out ban of cryptocurrencies, not just within the United States, but a ban of cryptocurrencies in the United States, in Europe, in Canada, and potentially in in other places. Now, why do I mention those other places, not just the United States? When you look at Voyager, they're currently located within the US, right? That is their primary market. But over the next, I want to say, few quarters here, they plan on expanding not just into Canada, but into all of Europe as well. So that opens up a lot of, many more markets and diversifies their revenue from that standpoint. So to see Voyager stock go to $0, not only are you going to have to see a ban of, potentially cryptocurrencies within the United States, but also within Europe and Canada, as those are alternative markets that are coming within the next couple of quarters. So this, in my mind, is the only thing that can send this company to bankruptcy. The market that they operate within is cryptocurrencies. That's how they make money, off of volume. If that completely goes away, their business model all of a sudden doesn't really have any backing to it. Blockchain isn't existent anymore, and the whole aspect of being, again, a blockchain-based lifestyle financial app kind of ends, right? And unless they pull something off, potentially expand into the regular fintech space, that's kind of the only scenario that I see happening. So for Voyager to go to $0 per share, you're going to need to see a flat-out ban of cryptocurrencies, not just in one nation, but in many nations, in many continents. That's my opinion. Talking about a potential probability of this happening, I see this, it really is dependent on your view of cryptocurrencies and what you think cryptocurrencies will kind of form into over the longer run. I think regulation will come, at least to a sustained way that will actually benefit the industry in a major way by regulating a lot of the potential fraudulency out of the system. But either way, the chances of a flat-out ban of cryptocurrencies worldwide, I guess we can say, at least in my opinion, less than 1%. But, potential regulation, that should come, and that should actually be kind of positive for the industry. But, that's kind of my opinion on Voyager going bankrupt. I see it as a very, very, very unlikely scenario. That's my opinion. So what is the next number that has been floating around? Well, $5 and Abraham Lincoln. What are the chances of Voyager Digital going down to $5 per share? Right, obviously back again, when I started looking at Voyager, it was back in January. And back in January, Voyager was trading right around $5 per share. I accumulated a lot of my position back then, but I've continued adding here over the past half year as fundamentals continue to improve. But what are the chances Voyager's stock price goes back to the levels that we saw in January? Well, again, first and foremost, we got to understand what's happened since then. Since January, Voyager has significantly grown their funded accounts, again, from just tens of thousands of funded accounts to over 700,000 funded accounts at this point. Revenue has grown from just a couple or a few $1,000,000 a month to now sitting at well over tens of millions of dollars per month. Again, in their latest quarter, they did right around $105 million in revenue, significantly profitable, a much more sustained business model, very clear outlook on their plans. A lot of positive things have happened for this business since then that really make the chances of it going down to that level very unlikely from a valuation point of view. So what you're going to need to see, at least in my opinion, for it to go from $14 all the way down to $5, essentially reducing its market cap by roughly 2/3, first and foremost, it's a couple things. First, you're going to need to see cryptocurrencies enter a bear market, similar to what we saw back in 2018, where cryptocurrencies experienced a massive surge of, again, roughly, I want to say, Bitcoin went to around 20,000, and then a multi-year significant downtrend where the price of Bitcoin continued to chug lower on a very regular basis, right? We can see this is just a zoomed-in chart here, going from late 2017 all the way to early 2019, where Bitcoin kind of bottomed out at, again, just under $4,000. Either way, you're going to need to see this. You're going to need to see the climate of cryptocurrencies be completely out of favor for Voyager, again, reducing their revenues, profits severely. But on top of that, obviously, when we look at stocks, when we look at the stock market, investors like to price growth into the future, right? And when you look at a company like Voyager, although they may experience potentially a short-term reduction in revenues and profits because of this potential climate, you got to understand that, hey, we may experience a rebound in cryptos and revenues may bounce back. An elongated crash like this hasn't really happened in cryptocurrencies since they've really become, or rather since they originated back and again after the Great Recession. But either way, we're going to need to see this happen. This climate of cryptocurrencies will need to occur. And on top of that, you're going to need to see Voyager really not hit any of its goals, whether that be international expansion, stock trading, margin, credit cards, debit cards, expanding on their cryptocurrency offering. I kind of just have a path here with, again, the end result being goals, the goals that they have to hit. You're going to need to see Voyager essentially not hit those goals, and you're going to need to see them fail at achieving some of those things. So when I look at this potential scenario of them hitting $5, you're not only going to need to see an unfavorable situation in cryptocurrencies to almost a maximum level, but you're also going to need to see Voyager start failing on their long-term plans, or potentially not even long-term plans, but late 2021, early 2022 plans. That, in my opinion, is what needs to happen to send the stock down and cause that, again, extremely negative kind of change in perception to the downside for Voyager. At least that's my opinion. Probability of this happening well under 5%, at least in my opinion, given that they've already kind of when we look at Voyager as a company, they've already kind of gone very far with their partnerships, with their new products. They've really kind of, they've dove deep into those different things, those different sectors, the different products that they have. Again, they acquired Coinify into payment processing. So the chances of them failing at those things are significantly lower because they're already, almost products. They're potentially prototypes. Their debit card is already a prototype and whatnot. So when we look at Voyager, it's not as much an idea anymore as it is an actual business that's continuing to execute on their vision. That's my opinion. Again, chances of this happening under 5%. We'll see what happens here moving forward, but yeah, I'm very confident that this won't happen. Now, the next scenario, and again, this is the one that I see much more likely than potentially $0 or $5, $10, right? When we look at $10 per share, this is a level that Voyager hit just this past July, where again, unfavorable situation in cryptocurrencies led the stock to fall significantly. So when we look at the Voyager stock potentially hitting $10, which again, it bounced off around this $10 to $11 range back in early February, late March. We saw it bounce off this level again back in mid-July here. What you're going to need to see for Voyager to hit $10 per share, again, a rather significant drop from these levels, you're going to need to see the price of Bitcoin fall substantially, potentially to levels of under 40,000 to potentially under 35 to 30,000. That, at least in my opinion, is what caused the stock to drop earlier and is what may cause the stock to drop back to those levels in that exact situation. We're going to need to see cryptocurrencies fall back to those levels. What are the chances that happens? I'm not too sure. Have the fundamentals at Voyager changed significantly at this point to maybe, $10 per share might be a little bit too low? Totally, that could be the situation. But this is much more likely than potentially $0 or $5. A bounce off of these levels if we do see a decline in cryptocurrencies. That's my opinion. But when we look at the most likely scenario here, and this is, again, one of the more positive scenarios, what are the chances that Voyager stock has already bottomed and that we only have upside to see here in the future? Well, a lot of the things that have happened to Voyager over the past 6 months throughout this downtrend have been very, very optimistic and very, very positive. You have increase in funded accounts. The business continues to develop and grow. You have a lot of positivity around acquisitions and ventures into these new sectors in the finance and cryptocurrency space, like payment processing, to where so much good stuff has happened and so much the share price has fallen so significantly to a point where the valuation is already so low, to a point where you really need to see a lot of stuff happen negatively to the business in order to see a significant downtrend in a stock price. So when we look at a potential upswing in Voyager stock price over the coming months, over the coming years, what's going to take it to continue chugging higher? And when I look at Voyager, you're just going to need to practice some patience. You need to wait for them to execute, continue reporting their numbers. They're going to, some phenomenal numbers coming, to us in the near future. We just got a bit of a glimpse into what happened in the second quarter of this year. Again, Voyager considers that their fourth quarter in their fiscal year, but a very profitable business, growing significantly with a great future as long as they execute on their plan, as long as they get uplisted to the Toronto Stock Exchange, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, the NASDAQ potentially late this year, early 2022. There's a lot of things to look forward to with Voyager. I'm practicing patience. It's 40% of my portfolio. Keep that in mind. I don't panic if it goes down because I know the underlying business is still there. And I hope these kind of different scenarios here outline my opinions on what may happen with Voyager. Again, chances of it going to $0, impossible, at least in my opinion, unless, nothing's impossible, but very unlikely unless we see a flat-out ban of cryptocurrencies worldwide. $5 per share, I see this again, very, very unlikely. Everything's possible. I see it unlikely unless we see the depths of a bear market paired with Voyager missing their targets and their goals. Again, bouncing off of that $10 level, a little bit, more potential for that to happen if we do see, again, a potential drop in cryptocurrencies, a severe correction, I guess we could say, maybe a pullback in the small cap stock space, which we have seen again over the past 6 months that has not been favorable for Voyager. And the most likely scenario, at least in my opinion, we see potentially a bit of a continued stagnation until we get more positivity from either Voyager from the sense of, again, business developments, quarterly reports, numbers, just continued execution of their business. So in my opinion, I think we got a lot of things to look forward to with Voyager at this point. The stock is definitely undervalued from where their business is at this point, from profits, things along those lines. I'm looking forward to see what Steve Ehrlich, the CEO of Voyager, ends up doing with this company over the long run and turning them into a lifestyle financial app. Again, I'm not being negative in this video. I'm just highlighting some of the things that, we got to pay attention to as investors. So if you ended up enjoying this video, feel free to hit that like button and that subscribe button as well. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.